Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jim Abbott. I work for A2B Excellence, and it's my privilege today to be here on the TRL stand at the Highways England Infrastructure event. And we are a very proud member of the SPATS Consortium framework with TRL, and just wanted to thank TRL for the opportunity today to speak. So my presentation today, I'm coming at sustainability from a slightly different angle than I expect most of this event is coming from. So I'm not looking at sort of technology, we're not looking at any kind of innovations, if you like, from a kind of an idea platform. We're looking at sustainability of change with the people that engage with that change. So I just want to frame it a little bit about the place that the UK finds itself in right now, and then also some of the secrets we've learned from another industry, which is rail. We're quite new to the road sector, so we don't want to, label you with anything that's going on in the rest of UK infrastructure. But we think there are a lot of lessons, and we're quite looking forward to exploring those lessons with Highways England and with TRL through the SPATS consortium. The first piece to say is that the UK has never been in a more critical space, in my opinion, of needing to invest in its infrastructure. It doesn't matter what your politics are, but things like Brexit, things like the changes happening in the world, politically, economically, are driving us towards a place where we really do want to be that global trading platform, if you like, for the rest of the world. And for me, none of that can happen unless our infrastructure really supports that. Now, I typically work in London every day, and it's something that's definitely labelled at London, that we centre everything around that. And something we're getting used to as working in the rail, and the road sector, is that actually it's the whole of the UK coming together to do different things, to really pull together, to really enable each other to collaborate effectively and really drive performance at the front line of businesses. And we definitely see this as the backbone of the UK's change in style with the rest of the world, and really us setting out on our own 2 feet, if you like, with our heads held high and knowing that we can make a big change. Now, I do quite a lot of executive coaching, and one thing I've been lucky enough to do is work alongside some quite high-profile programme directors delivering signalling projects in London, or actually in the nuclear sector as well, doing some decommissioning and commissioning works of some of the new power stations that are coming online over the next 10, 15 years. And a real clear thing to me is that all the theory in the world around kind of management engagement and leadership can, unfortunately, go out the window once the pressure of these organisations really comes to bear on those 5 or 6 human beings that actually drive those companies. Now, what happens is those businesses are normally under such political pressure, frankly, media and market pressure to do what they're doing, that the key element of engagement with people at the very front line of those businesses, the actual engagement, not unfortunately the PR or the marketing team's version of that, the actual engagement with them can be something that gets lost. And all of those sort of C-suite executives, frankly, will talk a damn good game around that kind of engagement, but actually seeing it through is really challenging. For me, the age of easy efficiencies and ever more process to make things slicker, faster, better, cheaper is coming to an end. And I say this as a lean convert, if you like. I started my career at Toyota, worked for Airbus, worked for Tesco's, other process improvement consultancy, so you would imagine I'm obsessed with process improvement. The bit I've really learned over the last 6 or 7 years, especially in rail, and with some of our good friends in TfL, is that you can add more and more process into a situation and think you're improving the performance of the business, but actually all you're doing is changing what the book says about how we do things. You're not actually getting to the front of the business on how people really do things. And it's not people are avoiding process because they don't want to or they're lazy. It's because often it's clunky, doesn't actually connect them with the task they need to do, can frankly, especially in Tesco's case in my experience, ruin the customer experience because they get so efficient at their job they can't communicate with the human being sat there in front of them. So it's something we've really focused on, is to not overlay more and more process or turn up and do a review of an activity and frankly criticise where they've broken process, but understand it's about pulling everybody together around some common goals and some common objectives, and quite frankly using the purpose motive as a way of really engaging everybody who goes to work for those businesses in the challenges that those companies face. Now, somebody like a Highways England, somebody like a TfL, tens of thousands of staff, lots of contractors doing different things in different areas, and actually aligning all those different organisations to those common goals is a lot easier said than done. It can be done in your glossy brochure that comes down from the top, and there's quite a few here today, and they're very impressive. They're lovely, you know, they're great. But actually, does the guy and girl on the front line understand that and how they add up to that every day? That's the challenge that A2B try to bridge. And what we do is we focus quite heavily on the middle management grades, because quite frankly, those are the guys and girls who've got an ever-decreasing budget, an ever-tougher programme of works to deliver, and their ability to convert those purpose motives into something that makes sense for the people on the front line, who are almost always all about customer service and doing a great job, you know, and caring about the people that they work with, is something that we really add to. Now, we're all about reducing waste. That's a huge message in the UK at the minute. You'll even hear the government talk about it, especially in things like the NHS, especially in highways and our infrastructure management. But for us, it's not about reducing the waste that's tied up in processes or in bureaucracy. It's about tying all that effort that goes into those activities that don't add value, if I talk lean for a second, and making sure the intention of all those activities is pointing in the same direction. Things like contractual relationships, things like procurement cycles, things like how we deal with our subcontractors, things like how our consortia, how apt are set up, can really affect the behaviours that get deployed. Something really obvious to me when you think about it is how we describe the non-permanent labour that works in our business. You know, instantly we call them contractors. Contract, it's a legal term. Legal is there to stop us having some sort of problem between each company. It doesn't instantly leap to, let's collaborate and share everything we can and make sure we're doing the best we can to change the way we do things, or really deliver on the front line. And it is a cliche, but things like, you know, team members, colleagues, all these words that suggest they're in it together. I wish I could remember what Google call their people at the minute, Googlers. They don't call them contractors, or they don't define it behind a contract. They're actually all about all these people are the talent, and these people are the people who will enable the change to be delivered. The bullet point there about staff are incentivised to feather their own nests. I'm not knocking any individual, but of course when you do quite a lot of coaching, when you do quite a lot of psychometric work, what you realise is sometimes it's in those managers' interests to not change. It doesn't mean they're bad people. They're trying to do the right thing and they're trying to do the best they can within their environment, but actually changing those setups, changing some of the contract relationships can actually enable them or create an environment where doing the right thing that we want is the natural thing to do, rather than a slightly risk-averse style that can definitely land, which we've seen a lot in TfL. As you can imagine, the sort of safety implications of running that network, the political pressure of the mayor being only ever 3 seconds away on the phone if a station stops, mayoral cycles running on 4 years, those things don't desperately fit with an infrastructure investment programme, but the ability to understand that and operate within it and create an environment that enables high collaboration even with those things is something we work very hard to do. There we go, IT's working. How apt. So yeah, our point basically here is that anyone who is out there thinking, do you know what, there's more IT, that'll fix everything, that'll make everything better. There's more policy and procedure from government, that will make everything better. Or frankly, we're just going to add more and more layers of management. You're reinforcing the silos if you're not careful. It can seem like the right thing to do around the board table, especially if something bad's happened. You know, the challenge people like the trans network will be going through with the horrific news over the last couple of weeks with the terrible derailment and people losing their lives. The easy thing for them to do is to say, let's add more process, let's automate everything, let's take all the human elements out of that you know, horrific thing that happened. But actually there'll be some behavioural issues around that, there'll be a lot of management issues, and you can be sure there'll be some infrastructure issues where maybe we have sweat that asset so hard that it's caused an issue. I'm sure that's not the whole thing, but it is something in there, and it doesn't always grab the headlines. It's not the news at 10 answer that the rails have been worn down too much. Yeah, we want to blame somebody, that's what humans do. But actually, it's a contributing factor to these things. So we really feel engagement is the key. And we don't mean engagement in a kind of kumbaya, let's all be friends sort of way. And the best engagement and the best collaboration I can ever think of, might sort of be old-fashioned, but it's things like a marriage, it's things like families, where it can have a robust disagreement about situations. Yeah, we can have different objectives at play. We can have different immediate needs and concerns, but the group is in it together. the group is trying to, do the best it can in the world together. And that is a great example for me of actually collaborating through good times and bad. That's always the test for consortium. It's always the test for big companies like highways and TfLs when things get tough, to not retreat behind a contract and start thinking about your position in court, to not retreat behind commercial situations. And the trouble is, however often we hear about collaboration and engagement being something really critical to the success of these projects, we do tend to do the same things over and over again in big business, again in my experience. Now, I'm not the only guy saying this. This chap on the screen here had a lovely way of putting things, didn't he? Of continuing to do the same things over and over again and expecting a different result is not the answer. And the trouble is, the doing things the same over and over again doesn't just happen at the kickoff of a program, doesn't just happen when we're organising the contract. It happens every single day of every hour of the piece of work. All our projects, especially smart motorways, these are years and years of activities, connecting with lots of different people. All those things have to have the right behaviours and the right approaches every day. And A2B really invests in those people and understands that situation and has targeted interventions to help those people sort of change how they're doing things. So, as you can imagine, you're probably sat there now thinking, okay, so Jim's told me about all the things we should do. That's all really obvious. Engagement is really important. Yeah, we get that. Well, and why would nobody do it? So I have a good little example for you of an activity that I was involved in at TfL. So we have London. We have London overnight. And at the point that we did this piece of work, the night tube wasn't running, which made things even easier. So currently, it's a harder situation than I'm going to describe. So TfL usually turns the tube off at 1 o'clock in the morning and turns it back on at 5 o'clock in the morning. So it only has a 4-hour work window to do everything it does to maintain and look after that, and quite frankly, invest in the capital works of the infrastructure. I'm sure highways has a similar challenge. I know there's activities to do a lot in the day, but of course at night, that's where you've got much less traffic or usage and you can make a difference. We went off to Oxford Circus Station on a process improvement exercise. We knew that as part of our contracts there to do what's called escalator lock-off. So the escalators that you get on every day get locked off overnight so people can build a platform on top of them to work on the light fixtures above them for changing bulbs, for that kind of simple work. So a group of guys have got to walk down there with the scaffolding, set up their scaffolding works. That's got to be safe. We've got to make sure they don't fall down the escalator and all that piece. So we actually have to lock these escalators off. And what we were looking for is we understood the contract was set up in a way that a little chap in a van would come out from the escalator company and go around 5 or 6 different sites and lock these things off one at a time. So we were thinking, okay, if you're at the end of that list, you've only got a 4-hour work window, you're probably losing 30, 40 minutes while a little guy in the van drives around and does his stuff. So we're looking for that little benefit. That was our target, and we thought we knew it. We thought we'd go and have a look and see what was happening anyway. When we arrive at Oxford Circus Station, we go down to have a look at the lock-off. At 1 o'clock, the little man in the van turns up, goes downstairs and locks the escalator off with some the kind of magnetic locking mechanisms that stop it fast, sort of engine braking, it can't move at all. He then spends the next 30 minutes strapping up the mechanism inside the escalator with a physical, high sort of tensile steel strap, so that if the escalator did slip, it wouldn't move. It's a second layer of safety. There had been some issue 10, 15 years ago, and this was the countermeasure that had been applied, an extra step in the process. So in watching this guy do it, and I've got a bit of a manufacturing background, and I'm nosy, so we're asking some questions about, okay, how does this work? Why do you do that? Gosh, it takes a long time. And he had just off the cuff said, you know what, it's quite funny that you do this, because the whole escalator will move 3 feet before this actually takes any effect. So we're having one of those moments at 2 o'clock in the morning of, it'll move 3 feet. Little man in the van goes, yep, it'll move 3 feet. And surely the platform will be down the escalator by now, everybody's fell off. This is a totally redundant safety measure. It doesn't work. And the guy from the company that comes and does it is telling us it doesn't work, but no one's ever asked them, no one's ever talked to anybody on the front line. And it was one of those, oh my gosh moments. We're looking for 1 or 2% in something, and actually through getting out here and talking to the individuals, we found something really big. We dug a bit further. TfL was spending about £1 million a year on this element of the process with this other company, which I'm not too keen that the commercial team would have been desperately happy about when we started to stop it. But that kind of cost had been going on for 5 or 6 years. It then took us over 15 months to get through the safety case within TfL to get this strapping exercise activity stopped. Because it's a redundant safety measure and it doesn't work. The bureaucracy of the business trying to remove the safety measure obviously is a big challenge. It's been put in for some reason and everyone's a bit concerned about it. But by enabling the guys at the front line to work with their middle managers to build the business case, to take it to the directors and the safety teams, you really saw this huge engagement from everybody in stopping doing something silly, something that doesn't work. I'm not suggesting we should ever cut a corner on safety, but if it doesn't work, it's a falsehood, isn't it? It doesn't help anybody. So we supported the team through that, usually with, frankly, capturing the output, building the business case for them, frankly, feeding back, because these guys and girls are working on night shifts. They're not at the natural time you'd expect the management teams to be there, all the engineering bodies, all the safety case guys and girls. And we just generally facilitated that whole activity. And it's really nailed to me, and everything that A2B does is make sure you've got your eyes open. And we're really excited about joining the road sector because almost we haven't been here before. And we're not suggesting we know the answer to anything, but we're just saying we might ask that daft question that makes the incumbents and the industry go, yeah, why do we do that? And there's so much learning from people like rail, from people like nuclear, and vice versa. We, as A2B, are all about building a kind of continuous improvement and engagement community. And I think these different sectors can learn so much from each other. So my final point, just on this sort of specific about engagement and behaviours, is for us it's about leaving the roles at the door. Human beings build hierarchies. We love all our different levels. We like to be called partners, directors, senior managers, whatever our titles are. That gives us a sense of identity. But actually, when it comes to solving a problem right on the front line, it is about who's got the right answer, who's got the right thing to contribute, and giving everybody time and space to do that. Again, I don't mean that in a kind of kumbayari kind of way. I mean it in a real hard-nosed, we've got to find a solution. Let's ask the guy that puts the cones out on the roads why he thinks that happened. Let's talk to people. Let's understand what are the contractors' problems, what are the sub-consultancies' problems, because they don't often get a chance to broach that in some sort of open format and share their learning. We also think there is absolutely no way around rolling your sleeves up and getting out there. I have been part of several desktop exercises for improving businesses, and they all look fantastic on the paper, and then we wonder why we only get 20% of what we were after. And genuinely, I've been through this 5 or 6 times, and there is no substitution for getting out at site, understanding the reality of the job that people are faced with every day, and enabling them to do the work that actually adds the value. Again, I know it's a very lean thing, but the people at the front of the business are the reason the business exists. The rest of us in management teams and consultancies are, quite frankly, supporting that activity. And the minute you find yourself not supporting that, if you've got a manager hat on or a consultancy hat or any other hat on, you've got to ask yourself, am I adding to this situation? Am I helping the UK? Or am I actually starting to work against it? And that can be quite an epiphany for some people as they go through things. And the final point there is some of the greatest stoppers of silly activities, is the post room, is the people on reception, is the new guy who's just joined the gang of works that's out in the van, because they don't have any emotional attachment to what's gone before. They can say, why don't we do this differently? It's the reason why every new training course, we put a load of graduates on it first, because they're just keen and they want to learn and they want to do things differently. And maybe it's part of us all getting a bit older. You can lose that a fraction. You can start to not want change to happen. But if I've learned anything over the last year, change is happening. It's happening at a national level. There's no stopping it, and we've just got to roll with it. And those that can adapt as quickly as possible and engage everybody, will be the winners. My last sort of 2 elements on sustainability of these things is you've got to try to drive common goals. Everyone's got to be pushing in the same direction. A great friend of mine, an engineer in the nuclear sector, said you've got to put a person on the moon moment. There's got to be that kind of objective at play. Things like Beyond Zero as a safety target for highways is fantastic because it's really out there and you're like, wow, that's a real challenge. And you can see people engaging in that because they say to themselves, how many people am I prepared to hurt today? Well, nobody. How many people am I prepared to injure a little bit? Well, nobody. That's a real good target. I want you to find 0.5% of the absenteeism target. It's just not as sexy, quite frankly. It doesn't really focus people in the same way. So it's make sure those common goals are there and make sure everybody can get involved. And I use the word can deliberately. because sometimes the change initiatives are coming from different parts of the organisation, and they don't always feel open to everybody in the business to put their hand up and say, I want to be part of that. So that's me telling my story of sustainability. My takeaways for my time here today is if you are sat around the board table and you are making these bigger decisions around strategy, just be really careful with forcing change. There is, in my experience, times when you can try to compel a business to do something it doesn't want to do because it's the right thing. I was talking to a couple of people here today about drone technology and how will that change, the way we do things in the UK and how we change deliveries. And you've got to feel in your heart that's going to happen, but there'll be a lot of resistance. So sometimes that paradigm shift can be resisted a lot from the existing status quo. But if you are trying to really deliver a sea change in performance, you've got to think about those breakthrough solutions and those different sort of styles. And my last point, I'm a massive believer in incremental improvement, massive believer in it. But you've got to be building on top of delivered success, auditable savings, real change, not continuing to build on the paperwork exercise, if you like. And also continued forced change. And I'm thinking here of people like the NHS. So I know nothing about on the ground. I don't want to say I do. But obviously you read it in the BBC, and they've done a great deal of improvement works, but continuing to shave those processes all the time without any meaningful engagement and doing anything differently will drive you towards a crisis point, in my opinion. And you can see that, I think, with some of the young doctors piece and some of the other challenges the NHS finds itself in right now, with the engagement of their staff. And their staff are starting to feel like they can't even go to work and do what is quite a high-purpose motive to help people be as healthy as they can be. If they can't get engaged with that subject in the organisation they find themselves in, what chance have the other companies trying to do big things in the UK got? So that brings my short presentation to a close today. Thank you very much for listening. If anyone has any quick questions, very happy to take them. Or if not, I'll just thank you for your time. Thanks, guys.